1 in 3. That's how many American men will face physical violence, sexual assault, or stalking by an intimate partner. 1 in 3 women worldwide will endure physical or sexual abuse, most often by someone they know. But domestic abuse isn't just bruises. It's manipulation, it's fear, it's control that seeps into every part of your life. I'm Ingrid Dutton, and I survived it. Then I created 1 in 3 so no one else has to suffer in silence. Each week, we break that silence together. Occasionally joined by survivors, loved ones, and experts, we talk about the pain, yes, but also about the healing, resilience, and the fight to reclaim your life. This podcast is more than awareness, it's a lifeline. And a reminder, you are seen, you are heard, you are never alone. Search for 1 in 3 wherever you get your podcasts, because every voice matters and every story deserves to be heard. Hey, everybody. So our last episode, we dove into the history of Black History Month, so the originations were in 1915, and we took you all the way up to 1964. So there was so much information, and there's still so much information left that we decided to divide it up into 2 episodes. So this is episode number 2, the history of Black History Month. Hi, I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Jessica.
I beat you.
I didn't know it was a race. Next time I'll make sure.
It's always a race.
Oh, sibling rivalry.
So much fun. Okay. So we are on page 8 of 14.
This is
maybe 6.
So informative, by the way. Some of the stuff I knew, a lot of the stuff I didn't. So this is awesome.
Oh, good. I did a lot of homework, and and for those who have known me throughout my life, they're pretty impressed and surprised by that fact.
All right, awesome. I look forward to hearing the rest. Okay.
All right. So we ended with the Mississippi burning, and if you've watched in between the because these are getting dropped the same day. So if you actually watch the movies, awesome. And let us know what you think. But anyway, so Mississippi burning. And now we are March 1965. And there is a protest march attempted in Selma, Alabama, after an African American protester was shot and killed by a state trooper. There was a protest regarding the inability for African Americans to register to vote because the governor, as well as the county sheriff, opposed it. On March 7th, there were 600 marchers met and beaten by state troopers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So that's part of this march. So I kind of wrote this in a funky way. So there was African Americans were not able to properly register to vote because the governor and the sheriff opposed it. So there was a protest.
I'm so sorry. They opposed it, even though the federal law that they could vote.
Yes. So, I mean, there were stories of governors stating that they would stand in the doors of schools to prevent Black Americans from entering, even though there was a federal law to integrate schools. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, there was a protest because of that. And then there was a protester who was shot and killed by a state trooper. Following that, a march was attempted. That makes so much. That's just the way I did it before. It was just so jumbled. So on March 7th, a protest. I'm sorry. On March 7th, a protest march was attempted. Selma, Alabama. There were 600 marchers that began the march. However, they were met and beaten by state troopers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. On March 9th, this march. That's why it's so confusing. It should have happened. It should have happened in a different month. Okay. So on March 9th, they reattempted the march with King leading leading them. He turned them around, however, once again at Edmund Pettus Bridge when they were met with state troopers again. That night, a white protester, Minister James Reeb, was fatally beaten by segregationists. On March 21st, a district court ordered to permit the Selma to Montgomery March. 2,000 marchers, along with the Alabama National Guard and U.S. Army troops, traveled the 3 days from Selma to Montgomery. From the steps of the state capitol building, King addressed the nearly 50,000 white and Black supporters who met those marchers.
Oh my gosh, goosebumps again and eyes watering.
Okay. Also in 1965 was the assassination of Malcolm X. And I knew, I obviously knew who Malcolm X was, but I didn't really know much about him. I don't know that I even ever watched. Wasn't there a movie called X?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch it?
No, I never did.
I'm gonna come clean. Jessica's eating while we're recording.
I'm so sorry, you guys. It's lunchtime. I'm starving.
It's funny because like you tried so hard to say that without sounding like you had a full mouth, and you totally sounded like you had a full mouth. All right. Well, I don't know that I ever watched the movie, and I don't know how much about Malcolm X that I really knew. So I didn't dive too far into him because there's so much. But here's the Cliff Notes version. He was born Malcolm Little in 1925. He was eventually orphaned. His father was, I believe, a Baptist preacher who was, I want to say he was hit and killed by a car. I don't know if this was like a conspiracy kind of note that was put in there, but it said it couldn't be ruled out that he was intentionally murdered. But I don't know how much truth was to that. His mother, they ended up becoming so poor that she would actually cook dandelion greens found alongside the road to feed the kids. She was eventually institutionalized. I'm not sure why. Like I said, I didn't dive in too much to get this information. So I don't know why she was institutionalized, but the kids ended up, and I don't know how many there were either, but they eventually ended up either getting sent to an orphanage or to live with other family members.
That is so sad.
It's really sad. And I think it's kind of important to understand where he came from, because it sort of maybe leads to the kind of individual he grew into be.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he was eventually orphaned. He went to school, and I'm not sure at what point he stated his intentions as far as what he wanted to become, but an 8th grade teacher told him that he should look into, what was it? I didn't write this down. I just remember this. He wanted to be a lawyer, and an 8th grade teacher told him, maybe you shouldn't be a lawyer. Maybe you should be a carpenter. But I don't know if it was a carpenter. The teacher just told him, yeah, I don't think you should be a lawyer.
Like your dreams are too big, silly little boy.
Yeah. Yes. So eventually he ends up leaving the orphanage, and he goes and he lives with, perhaps it was a half sister. I think it was a half sister from his father's previous marriage. So then he falls into a life of selling drugs and leading a gang of thieves in Harlem. And following a prison sentence from 1946 to 1942, which he was arrested for robbery, he underwent a conversion. And that's where he ends up joining the Nation of Islam, NOI, also known as Black Muslims. The Nation of Islam combined the ideas of Black nationalism and Islam. He, at that point, decides to drop his quote slave name of Little and replaced it with X, which was commonplace for those who joined. I think they call it the Nation for short. Malcolm rose quickly in, I put in quotation ranks. I came up with that word, so I don't know if that's a proper term, but he kind of rose quickly, I guess, in ranks. And he was eventually named the national representative of the Nation of Islam, which was second only to the founder. And the founder's name is Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm became a public speaker, and he actually challenged and criticized King's integration and nonviolence strategies. Malcolm encouraged his followers to defend themselves, quote, by any means necessary. He did help change the terms which were used to describe African Americans from Negro and colored to Black and Afro Americans. And in 1964, he left the Nation of Islam. He embraced Sunni Islam, Sunni.
Sure.
I think that's, yeah.
That's like a, never mind, I'm not going to talk.
And when he did that, he changed his name to El Haj Malik El Shabazz. And there were growing tensions between the Nation of Islam and Malcolm, which led to threats and his eventual assassination on February 21st, 1965. There were 3 members of the Nation of Islam that were initially convicted. One guy came forward and said, it was just me. The other 2 didn't do it. And those 2 ended up becoming exonerated in 2021. So that's Malcolm X.
Why did the Brotherhood of Islam kill him?
Well, the Nation of Islam assassinated because once Malcolm took on the stricter, different beliefs of the Sunni Islam beliefs, he had a lot of conflicting views, and he challenged Elijah Muhammad, the founder of the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
And it was, I think, and I apologize for making any incorrect assumptions, but it appears from that he was a very angry, very not necessarily violent, but kind of like, let's embrace, like when he said defend yourselves by any means necessary, he was okay with violent means. And he did not like that King was a little bit more passive in his ways. But again, I think it's important that you look at where Malcolm came from, like what his background was. And coming into 1965, when slavery was, the Civil War ended in 1865. So we're talking 100 years after the end of the Civil War. And Black Americans are still facing all of these injustices. He's probably frustrated, super frustrated from this not great upbringing, not great background of being in gangs and things like that. I'm not saying it's okay to have that kind of like, let's just be aggressive, but you can kind of sort of understand.
That's how we learned how to be.
Yeah. Okay. So also 1965, this is March of 1965. The Voting Rights Act was passed, and that sought to overcome the legal barriers that still existed. I'm quoting this, at the state and local level, which prevented Black citizens from exercising the right to vote, which was given to them by the 15th Amendment. And when was the 15th? The 15th Amendment was 1870. So in 1965, we're having to pass acts to let that actually happen, let that amendment actually happen.
100 years.
Yes. So specifically, it banned literacy tests as a requirement for voting, and it mandated federal oversight of voter registration in areas where the tests had previously been used. So in the late 1960s to the 1970s was the rise of Black Power. And Black Power was, this is a quote also, a form of both self-definition and self-defense for African Americans. It called on them to stop looking to the institutions of white America, which were believed to be inherently racist, and act for themselves, by themselves, to seize the gains they desired, including better jobs, housing, and education. And in 1966, during that time frame, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, who were college students in Oakland, California, founded the Black Panther Party. And the initial plan for the Black Panther Party was to help protect Black Americans from white brutality. So they would send Black Panther members in like a patrol group, I guess is what it was called, into Black neighborhoods. However, the Panthers soon developed, this is a quote again, soon developed into a Marxist group that promoted Black power by urging African Americans to arm themselves and demand full employment, decent housing, and control over their own communities.
Well, I mean, they're not wrong, though.
Right. But again, that's going against King's, like, let's do this peacefully. Let's do this, let's have a dignified, peaceful approach,
right,
to how we do things. I'm not saying they're undignified, but when you take on a more aggressive stance on things, I don't know. I mean, I can understand where they're coming from. I can understand that frustration, but I just think of like, I'm not. When you kill them with kindness, kind of that term, it's like you're supposed to get further with being kind and calm,
being the better person,
which perhaps that does get you further to a degree. But I think, again, we're talking about acts getting passed to uphold amendments that were passed 100 years ago. So King, while he's making so much progress, it's probably not fast enough for some. And I do think that this might have split kind of the civil rights movement up a little bit, from the more aggressive to the less aggressive or more passive groups, which in my mind would think then now you're splitting up groups. So now you're actually going to make less progress overall. Right. Anyway, I'm really trying not to be insert my opinion. Yes. I don't want to be speculative. I don't want to insert it's not even my opinion. It is my speculation. I have no idea. Okay. So April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. He was standing on a balcony of a motel in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was supporting a sanitation workers' strike. James Earl Ray was arrested and initially confessed. He entered in a guilty plea and he was sentenced to 99 years. However, there was no testimony that was ever heard. He later recanted his confession, saying he did not do it, which then prompts the speculations of conspiracy. Like who actually really did assassinate him, and did they do a quick trial just to end it so that there was no further looking into who assassinated him? The deaths of Martin Luther King Jr., along with Malcolm X, fueled the Black Power movement and the Black Panther Party. April 10th, 1968. So I guess 6 days later. Yes, the House of Representatives signs the Fair Housing Act. So I believe it had initially gotten passed by Congress, or it was sitting on the floor the day that King was assassinated. So it kind of gave this extra push toward it. So this Fair Housing Act extended the federal protection of civil rights. And it addressed racial discrimination in the sale, rental, or financing of housing units. 1972, Shirley Chisholm, Chisholm, who was the first Black woman in Congress in 1968.
Nice.
Founder of the National Women's Caucus. She runs for president in 1972. She
Really?
Yes. She received more than 150 votes at the Democratic National Convention, but the nomination ended up going to George McGovern. And I don't know.
I have no idea.
She stated that she did not get much support from the Black men on.
Really?
Right. And she is quoted as saying, "I've always met more discrimination being a woman than being Black. When I ran for Congress, when I ran for president, I met more discrimination as a woman than for being Black." That just states it again. And then men are men.
Sorry, that's hilarious.
Right. Okay. And in 1976, I said this way at the beginning, President Gerald Ford recognizes Black History Month. And since 1976, every American president has designated February as Black History Month. And one thing I didn't know, there has always been an endorsed theme each year. So I'll get to that later. In 1978, affirmative action and the BACK, BAKKE, Backy.
I don't know.
That debate. So I cut and paste all of this. But I'll try to kind of sum it up. So in the beginning in the 1960s, the term affirmative action. Oh, yes. Okay. It was used to refer to policies and initiatives aimed at compensating for past discrimination on the basis of race, color, sex, religion, or national origin. And President John F. Kennedy used the phrase in 1961. He passed an executive order calling on the government to hire more African Americans. And by the mid 1970s, the universities were taking on the affirmative action plan and were trying to increase the presence of minority and female faculty and students. And for example, the University of California at Davis designated 16% of its medical school's admission spots for minority applicants. And so the Buckhay debate. So Alan B, we'll just call him Alan B, was a white California man. He applied twice without success to UC Davis. And then he sued UC Davis. And what his claim was that his grades and his test scores were higher than any of the minority students that were accepted to the school. And so he accused them of reverse discrimination. And which I know you're rolling your eyes, but I know that's, I'm going to call you out. But that is kind of something that has been, I guess, a complaint throughout the years since the affirmative action.
Oh yeah.
And I
Yeah,
can see
totally.
that. I can see that. But I know then the argument that comes into play is what kind of education is given to minorities prior to applying to colleges and universities. So
And that's exactly why I rolled my eyes.
I know.
Okay.
So, a white American or someone who, and I'm not saying white Americans are all privileged, but, or someone else who could be considered privileged is, can receive a better education, pre-college education, thereby giving them better grades and better, becoming a better candidate to be accepted into a school. So,
and that doesn't even need to be like racially motivated. It's more socioeconomical or economical
correct.
rated.
Well, kind of socially too.
Yeah, but like if I can afford to send my kid to the same high school as Bill Gates, like my child, it's probably a very expensive private school that has like a beeline to an ivory.
Right.
To an ivory
the ivory tower of the Ivy League schools.
Oh man.
Right. And I think it's socially too, but not racially, socially, but anyway, that could be like 10 more podcast episodes. Okay. So, in June of 1978,
wait, what happened? Did he win the lawsuit or did he lose?
That's what I'm telling you.
I thought you jumped. I'm sorry. I thought you jumped topics.
The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the use of strict racial quotas is unconstitutional and that Alan B should be admitted. However, it still upholds that institutions of higher education could rightfully use race as a criterion in admissions decisions in order to ensure diversity. You look annoyed.
I am.
I think, how else could they rule?
Well, I will share this about my past in college education. For financial aid, I marked the white box. And then for my college application, I marked the Asian box.
But did it matter? I mean, we both went to the same college.
No, but I'm just saying, like, that was like, late 90s. That was my belief, is that if I was white, I'd get approved for financial aid. And if I was Asian, I had a better chance of going to college.
I think mom pushed us for that too.
Maybe.
Okay. Anyway, 1984. So I type in 1984, Jesse Jackson. And then
goodness.
Then I copied and pasted everything. So let me try to summarize. I mean, there's just so much about Jesse Jackson. And I think that's why I just cut and pasted. Because there's just so much. So he originally was going to the Chicago Theological Seminary, but he left those studies and he ended up joining King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, to help out with pushing for Black civil rights in the South. Jesse Jackson was actually at King's side when he was assassinated. And in 1971, Jackson founded the People United to Save Humanity, or PUSH, as later changed to People United to Serve Humanity. So it's an organization that advocates for self-reliance for African Americans and sought to establish racial parity in the business and financial community. So much of this is a direct quote. He was obviously a leading voice for Black Americans in the 1980s. He tried to get Black Americans more involved with everything politically, just to create a bigger voice for themselves.
Yeah, he ran for president.
It's like, you know what I have here on the
Sorry.
paper.
I remember being in second grade and like all the president's names being on the board and we all put our heads down and you raised your hand on who you'd vote for.
Really?
Yeah. And I raised my hand for Jesse Jackson. I had no idea about politics when I was in second grade. He had the same name as me.
Do you,
That's how I got my vote.
Do you know what I remember from second grade?
Hmm.
We had a solar eclipse, and I remember crying because I needed to call home to tell mom that there was a solar eclipse because she works so much and she does not have time to pay attention to what's happening in the rest of the world. And and she always did laundry, and she was going to be washing clothes. And as she was hanging the clothes up onto the clothesline, she was going to inadvertently look at the sun and become blind.
Did you call home?
Oh. Mrs. Good. Who did I have? Hanson. Was Mrs. Hanson second grade?
She taught first and second. I had a split class. My class was split.
And there was a Mrs. Blado. I don't know. Was she first?
First. Yeah.
Okay. So it must have been Mrs. Hanson. Maybe it was first grade because for some reason I feel like it was Mrs. Blado. Anyway, first or second grade, Mrs. Hanson or Mrs. Blado did her best not to laugh in my face. And so sweetly said, "Oh, honey, I think your mom knows." Anyway, second grade, you're voting for Jesse with no other name because it's the same as yours. Mm-hmm. So yes, so in 1984, Jackson ran for the Democratic nomination for president. He placed third in the primaries, and which just says propelled by a surge of Black voter participation. So I think like his call to, hey guys, get more active. Okay. He ran again in 1988, which would that, no, the first one is your second grade. No,
88 would have been my second grade.
Yeah. Okay. And in 1988, he received 6.6 million votes and won from second grader Jessica. And it was 24% of the total primary vote. And he actually won 7 states, and he finished second. Wow. He finished second behind the eventual Democratic nominee, Michael Dukakis. Jackson's, let's see, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It says here at the end of this is a quote. Throughout his long career, Jackson has inspired both admiration and criticism for his tireless efforts on behalf of the Black community and his outspoken public persona. His son, Jesse L. Jackson Jr., won election to the U.S. House of Representatives from Illinois in 1995. All right. So,
19... Chicago, like the pipeline for Black American presidents, or like, is that
maybe? Maybe. So, okay. So 1976 is when President Ford recognized Black History Month. 1986, actually, Congress passed National Black History Month into law. And that is when the country began to observe it formally, not formerly. And the law aimed to make Americans, quote, aware of the struggle for freedom and equal opportunity. All right. So 1986, this was taken from, again, history.com as well as Forbes. Oprah Winfrey launches a syndicated talk show. So Oprah was born to a poor, unwed teenage mother in rural Mississippi. She worked.
Really?
She did. She worked
Oh.
in TV news and eventually in 1984 took over a morning talk show in Chicago. And in 1986, she launched the Oprah Winfrey Show, which was a nationally syndicated talk show. The show ran for a total of 25 years and became the highest rated in TV history.
It's not
Oprah
on
would.
anymore.
Hmm?
There's no Oprah Winfrey Show anymore.
Are you serious?
Yes.
No, there hasn't been. She started her a network, own Oprah Winfrey Network.
Yeah.
She would promote Black authors and she helped produce novels turned movie. So The Color Purple, blah, blah, for some reason I can't say it. The Color Purple and Beloved, both of which she also acted in. And she is the first Black female billionaire. Oprah is known to donate to Black South Americans and Black Morehouse College, along with multiple other causes and charities. 1992. Gosh, I was in high school, 9th grade. So you would have been 6th grade, maybe? All right. The LA riots. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So these riots began in the South Central neighborhood of Los Angeles. The total estimated damage was around $1 million, with nearly 1,000 buildings burned, 2,300 people injured, and 55 people dead. So a year earlier, in March, Rodney King led the California Highway Patrol on a high-speed chase. He had been speeding. King had been speeding. He was drinking and he was on probation for robbery. The Los Angeles Police Department was on the scene when the California Highway Police caught up. After reportedly resisting arrest, King was tased and beaten by 4 LAPD officers. The footage was recorded by an onlooker and later broadcast around the world.
Yeah, and mom and dad let us watch it.
Yeah, I know. The 4 officers were found not guilty in April 1992, which prompted the riots. A year later, 2 of the officers were tried in federal court and found guilty of violating King's civil rights, and he was awarded $3.8 million from the city in a settlement. 1995 was a Million Man March. So hundreds of thousands of Black men gathered in Washington, D.C. In October of 1995 for the Million Man March. It was one of the largest demonstrations in the Capitol's history. The organizer was Minister Louis Farrakhan, Farrakhan.
Sure.
He was the of the Nation of Islam, and he called for, quote, 1 million sober, disciplined, committed, dedicated, inspired Black men to meet in Washington on a Day of Atonement. Anyway, he had, different kinds of philosophies and ideas, but this Million Man March, when this is his specific call, got a lot of white and Black supporters. It was the idea of it was to bring about a spiritual renewal among Black men and instill them with a sense of solidarity and of personal responsibility to improve their own condition. And in the same respects, the fact that he's specifically asking for sober, disciplined, committed, to counteract, I guess, the stereotypical negative images of Black men. So you go from the riots and
right,
back to, I think, kind of once again, the ideas of Martin Luther King Jr. And it coincided with a time of, do you remember that it was the war on drugs was around that time? Do you remember that?
I remember Dare.
Yeah. So, with this big war on drugs, there were more Black men incarcerated than in college by 2000. By the year 2000. Yes. So the Million Man March, there was estimated to be anywhere from 400,000 to actually more than 1 million participants. And let's see. And then this kind of, what is the word? Inspired the organization of 1 Million Woman March, which happened in 1997 in Philadelphia. In 2001, Colin Powell, who was the first African-American who served as chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff from 1989 to 1993, is also a Vietnam vet and a 4-star U.S. Army general, was appointed to Secretary of State by George W. Bush. That made him the first African-American to serve as America's top diplomat. He resigned in 2004 after Bush was reelected, and he was succeeded by Condoleezza Rice, who was Bush's she was his foreign policy advisor and former head of the National Security Council. And that made her the first Black female to hold the position, or female African-American to hold the position. In 2008, Harvard Law School trained lawyer turned politician beginning in 1996, Barack Obama, with his Yes We Can campaign, beats out Republican Senator John McCain.
My eyes are watering again. I'm so sorry.
And becomes the first African-American president. He was reelected in 2012. In 2013, don't get too happy. Now we're going to be sad again. In 2013, the term Black Lives Matter was first used by Alicia Garza, and she used the term in response to George Zimmerman's acquittal in the Trayvon Martin case.
I remember that. I used to be scared to go to Stanford.
We were in Florida.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I didn't leave the house for a while. I mean, I probably left the house, but I didn't go far.
I had to go to the courthouse in Stanford for my job for some reason, and it made me nervous. Not because of who I am, just because of all the turmoil going on.
Oh, right. And I mean, it was just, everybody was on edge, ready to react to anything, very reactionary. Mm-hmm. So in 2013, Patrisse Cullors, Alicia Garza, and Obal Tometi formed the Black Lives Matter network. And so the mission was to, quote, eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by the state and vigilantes. The hashtag Black Lives Matter was first seen on Twitter July 13th, 2013. And there are a series of, did I put the dates? I didn't. So following this, there are a series of deaths of Black Americans. This is a quote, at the hands of police officers continued to spark outrage and protests. These included Eric Garner in New York City, Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, Tamir Rice in Cleveland, Ohio, and Freddie Gray in Baltimore, Maryland. May 25th, 2020, 46-year-old George Floyd died after being handcuffed and pinned to the ground by police officer Derek Chauvin. The officer was filmed by onlookers. He was kneeling on Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes. And what prompted the police response to Floyd is that he had been accused of using a counterfeit $20 bill at a local deli in Minneapolis. All 4 of these officers were indicted. Wait, I don't know that's Yeah. Okay. So they were all fired. April 2021, Chauvin was convicted of second degree unintentional murder, third degree murder, and second degree manslaughter. And the other three were charged with aiding and abetting murder. And this killing happened after two other cases in 2020, February 23rd. 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery was killed while out on a run. I saw this after
Video.
Yeah,
That's
after
horrible.
being followed by three white men in a pickup truck. Right, he was just jogging through the neighborhood.
He was jogging
right?
through the neighborhood. Yeah, they had two pickup trucks, I believe. I thought they had two.
Okay, vehicles. I don't remember. On March 13th, 26-year-old EMT Breonna Taylor was shot 8 times and killed after police broke down the door to her apartment while executing a nighttime warrant. I don't remember hearing about that one.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible. I remember hearing about that.
Like
there's questions about like how they even served the warrant, because like there's a law that says that you don't have to announce yourself if you're doing a drug raid. And so you don't have to say, hey, I'm the police, and you can just bust in. And so there's a lot of controversy with hers. I can't remember all of it off the top of my head, but it was sad. Supposedly they were coming in after her ex-boyfriend or boyfriend, or it's tragic. It's just very tragic.
Yeah. That's awful. May 26, 2020, there were protesters in Minneapolis took to the streets after Floyd was killed. Police cars were set on fire. There's tear gas to disperse the crowds. And this, really prompted a lot of education and feedback. And in fact, this incident is what prompted what our next episode will be. And that is a story by a friend of ours, mine,
acquaintance of mine, friend of yours,
former college roommate. Anyway, we'll talk about that next episode. All right. In 2021, the daughter of an Indian immigrant mother and Jamaican immigrant father, Kamala Harris becomes the first person of African or Asian descent and the first woman to become vice president of the United States.
I'm crying again.
Now this is a quote, in her victory speech in November 2020, Harris said that she was thinking, quote, about the generations of women, Black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight. Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all. So that brings us up to speed, this long travel. But so
and there's so much other details like you could have gone into. Like we could have made this a year-long podcast,
right,
and all the history.
Right. So Black History Month was initially created as a way to educate students and young people about Black and African Americans' contributions. So many of these stories have been neglected. Some have been forgotten. And that's kind of why we wanted to do this. Today, where did I take this from? I don't remember where I took this from, but today it's seen as a celebration of those who have impacted not just the country, but the world with their activism and achievements. And this is a chance for all of us to engage with Black histories, go beyond the discussions of racism and slavery, and highlight Black leaders and the accomplishments that have been made throughout all these years. In addition, it says organizations like Black Lives Matter use this month to look ahead, celebrating Black Future Month as well as Black history. And let's see, this gives everyone an opportunity to reimagine what possibilities lie ahead. Look how far this group of individuals have come, and look at what can be accomplished thereafter. And it says the forces that drove Woodson nearly a century ago are more relevant than ever. And Lonnie G. Bunch III, who's the director of the Smithsonian Institute, said at the opening of the Washington, D.C.'s National Museum of African American History and Culture in 2016, it's quoted as, "There is no more powerful force than a people steeped in their history, and there is no higher cause than honoring our struggle and ancestors by remembering." One thing from the ASALH, which is the foundation that Woodson started way back in 1915. I got this from their website, is that we mentioned it, or I mentioned it a long time ago in this podcast, that there's a theme every year. And the reason that there is a theme is to bring attention to certain aspects of Black Americans or African Americans, and it's not to dictate or to limit the view. So the theme this year, why did I not write it down? That was silly. Good gracious. So the theme, here. I thought it was worded a little bit differently, but perhaps not. So the theme for 2022 focuses on the importance of Black health and wellness. And this is a direct quote from their site. This theme acknowledges a legacy of not only Black scholars and medical practitioners in Western medicine, but also other ways of knowing, for example, birth workers, doulas, midwives, naturopaths, herbalists, etc., throughout the African diaspora. The 2022 theme considers activities, rituals, and initiatives that Black communities have done to be well. So that is the theme for 2022. And in a gigantic fat nutshell, that's the history of Black History Month.
Wow.
Doing this brought so much awareness to me. I mean, you always hear oh, there have been struggles, but actually diving into the story and feeling the emotion that these different stories have hold, it was really eye-opening. It made me feel sad and then proud. Obviously of the good people, not the bad guys.
Right. Well, I'm there's crazy because there's so much more history. One of the podcasts we listened to covered the Tulsa riots and the Tulsa massacre. And I think I was 35 years old until I finally heard about that. There's so much history that is just not taught at all. And I don't, whatever the reason why it's not okay, but I'm glad that you did all that to give some of the history and that share. I mean, even if people knew it, a refresher is always a great idea.
Right. And, I'm sure there are things that I missed. I mean, there's just so much in the history that
years. I mean, you're covering 4 centuries of history since slavery started in 16.
Oh, okay. I was
right? Isn't that something like that? That's 400 years of history. You can't cover that in 2 hours.
Right.
So if anyone wants to add something in or share some more information or their own personal story, that'd be fantastic. And you're more than welcome to.
I will try
good, bad, or ugly.
We do have an Instagram account, which is Another Situation podcast. And I will I'll try to find, photographs of some of these individuals to put on there.
That'd be cool.
All right.
Well, thanks for doing that, Ingrid.
Thank you for listening, and thank any of you who are listening for listening.
And we'll see you next week. Oh,
well, if you like this story, please like us. I guess it's not really one story. It's so many stories that we just did in these. Next week, like I said, I kind of touched on, we will be talking with one of my former college roommates, and it's a story that he so graciously is willing to share with us. He did share it on his social media profile following George Floyd. And it's a story that I had no idea about until he shared it. So we'll be hearing that not next week. All these are going the next episode.
If you want to send anything into us, it's anothersituationpodcast@gmail.com.
We want to hear your stories. We want to tell your stories.
Absolutely.
All right. Adios. Ciao.
Arrivederci.
Auf Wiedersehen. Is that the right?
I don't know.
Bye.
If you would like to contact us or send in your story, please write us at anothersituationpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at anothersituationpodcast.
Another Situation is edited and produced by Point 5 Pinoy. Music is written and performed by Tim Crow.